You guys can feel free to chit chat if you want to. We just have had some, sometimes when we start the YouTube a little bit late, then folks think that maybe we're not meeting or, so we're just trying to start it a little bit earlier.
Well, Chuck, I was pleased to see you on the planning committee meeting on the Zoom.
There I am. Okay. Yes. Yes, it was good to see you too. It was very interesting. It was a very interesting discussion and the issues, and I appreciated your testimony. Yeah. There's, yeah, that's an interesting issue.
There's more work to be done.
I agree. I agree. As with most things in life.
So Heather, you put a little grounding exercise in there, and you provided us with some of your information about
just you.
only me.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shame.
No, I'm happy to start that. I wasn't sure because people are still trickling in, but yeah, I thought it would be fun.
Yeah.
So to try to like start us off and get us grounded. I was reflecting on our last meeting and the road mapping conversation and the one-on-one conversations that we've been having with you guys, and really just feeling like wanting to create an open atmosphere in our meetings and something that's friendly and provides, people room to talk and share, and kind of hoping to encourage a more collaborative process here. And so part of that, right, is inclusivity and making sure that we're working with people from all different walks of life and communities all around the Kona district. So one thing that I was hoping that we could all share is whereabouts. So if you're from the Kona district, whereabouts in the Kona district are you from? And why is that area near and dear to your heart? What makes you think it's this special place? And I can share mine. I lived in Kolokomalka for a while, and I just remember the house that we were living in had this forest surrounding us, and me and my younger sister would go and play in the forest, and the avocado grove next to our house too. So we would go and pick avocados and play pretend games in the forest, and so that was always really special to me. Kolokomalka, and just the rain and the algae growing on the windows was something that I just, for whatever reason, I always look back at that with a lot of nostalgia. And feel free to share in your mic too, if you don't want to share in the chat.
Well, in the good spirit of the intention, I'll just say today I'm very grateful because it's raining right now. My gutters are clogged and it's spilling over all over my yard. But I just planted my taro about a week or so ago. This is the first rain we've had probably in 3 weeks. So, I try to follow the Hawaiian calendar, in terms of planting, which I think, at least my observation is that it's becoming less and less relevant as climate change is occurring, but it is still a basis, and it comes from hundreds of years of observation and trial and error. So I, where I live in Kealia, to me is heaven on earth, because it's got just the right weather, it's got the right temperatures, got the right amount of rainfall. Everything grows here. In my yard, mainly weeds. But when I get to the garden, one can imagine how how fruitful the gardens can be. But there was an article just written, I think in Big Island News, about Clarence Medeiros, maybe. I don't know if some of you read the article about him growing a taro that weighed over 50 pounds. And wow. He's right up the road from me in Honokohau. And he's a great taro aficionado. so here is just, it's just a great place to live. I call it home, although I've only been here 35 years. But I love it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I appreciate what you said, Charlie. I know that I came to Hawaii to study Hawaiian Lomi massage with Auntie Margaret Machado, and from there, just the people, the culture, the environment, the knowledge and wisdom and the living. It's like living in history, except it's now. It's like timeless. There's this connection to the past. I don't even know how to explain it. It's only if you live there or live here in Heavenly Home now and really take the time to listen to the kupuna and the language and the places. And I remember Uncle used to always say, there's no place anywhere near this place like this place, so this place must be the place. So it's so true. And I know Clarence too, and Nellie, and yeah, they're great people.
Mahalo for sharing. I also wanted to acknowledge we have Tina Marie is with us on YouTube, and she's commenting. So we have some participation on that side going on. She says she's from Puna side and wanted to check out how Kona side's doing. That she lived in Captain Cook for a while, and that it's a beautiful place.
I would like to share this picture that you have as our backdrop here. I've never seen it before from the sky like this, because right in the center is St. Michael's Church, the old church, which I spent much time at, and also now. And it's so different now because we're building a new church, because in the 2006 earthquake, it was found that it was not safe. And it was built in 1850. And the only thing holding that white church that you see there together was the stucco on the inside and the outside, because because inside it was rocked, like the lava with the mortar that was inside was like sand. And so we had to tear it down, and it was quite the process to do that. But that building in back, that little white one in front of the condo complex above, that little one. So that used to be my office. Originally, it was where the priest lived way back in the 1800s. Now they live up in Hulualoa, but that had the library, and I was the religious education coordinator. So I planned, our programs there. But after the earthquake, I was told that if we had, if things, if we had another one, I just should run outside, because there's just one door and it's little, just run outside. So I guess I hope in the future you'll have a new backdrop up with our new church in our home, which should be done now by this summer, we're hoping. So, and that will be a place to share with the community, the new home. So I just wanted to share that little piece of history and where I live a lot of my time over there at St. Michael's.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing. I was telling Uncle Charlie when we were just getting settled in that so this picture came from we have this folder in our files that was from 2006, and somebody flew a drone, I think, or a helicopter, one of the two, around the island and took all these pictures of the shoreline, just every shoreline along the island. And I just love it so much. I've spent so much time in that folder looking at all our different districts and the topography and just the different climates and everything. It's just fascinating to me. And we should definitely get somebody to do that again.
Yeah, definitely. Wait until after our hall is done. But they were putting they were putting the roofing on this week. So as soon as the construction fence comes down, that would be a good time. That other one, that little one in the front, that was originally, that was where the nuns lived. So, and that became kind of our hall there. Yeah, and so we had offices there and classrooms there, you know, when before we tore everything down and started over, and then followed the current zoning laws, because there were no old ones, and that's on a you know, it's in a flood zone, so everything is up, and I think we put something like $500,000 of concrete into the lava tubes that were beneath all that, so that the new structure stands. So it should stand in an earthquake as well.
Well, fingers crossed we don't have to worry about that for a long time.
I hope so.
Knock on wood. So still don't have quorum yet either. So that's the other reason for the delay.
So quorum would be Kari and Janice.
Kari's here.
Kari's here.
Oh, I'm sorry. She's not on my screen. So I'm sorry, Kari.
Kari, I bet you have some stories to share.
Oh.
Let's see, who else registered? Marisa registered. I don't see her here quite yet. David, we know he can't, isn't going to make it. If you're late coming into the meeting, one thing we were just talking about was the Kona district. And it doesn't have to be the Kona district either. If you're from somewhere else, that's fine too. But just where you're from and why that area is special to you and near to your heart. And we've been sharing out loud, but we also have a chat feature if you're more comfortable conversing that way too.
I'm just trying to double check because we know that Janice will be on a little bit later. So I'm trying to see if we are able to call the meeting to order, and that way we can have Sharon share. And so we just postpone the business part, like the minutes and all of that. Yes, okay, confirmation. So we can call the meeting to order and then go through our protocol. And then what we'll do is move the approval of the minutes maybe to the end of the meeting. We can move approval and public comment. Hmm. No, you know what? We can just move approval of the minutes to the end of the meeting. Public comment can happen because we can accept that without quorum. And then we can go into Sharon's presentation. And then at such time that we get quorum, then we'll announce that that fifth person has joined us, and then we can move into the other business. If that's what you are comfortable with doing, Uncle Charlie.
I'm very comfortable with doing that. Without quorum, we don't move and what have you. So it's just an agenda item, and it's at the chair's discretion really to go ahead and move it. So I think that's the right ruling, but so I'm okay with that. So we will conduct the roll call. Olelo No'eau. We can do announcements. Oh no, we're gonna move the announcements and the approval of the minutes as well, and then ask Sharon then to share. Question on that, in the sharing process, we allowed to ask questions and encourage a discussion?
You can ask clarifying questions, but without,
Okay,
no. Yeah, you can ask clarifying questions, but without quorum, we cannot have discussion.
okay,
But if such time that the fifth member jumps in, we'll make that announcement so that you guys know right away
okay,
where
all
we're at.
right, okay. So, okay, well, let's call the meeting to order. I'm just wondering if there's anybody on the call that would want to offer an Olelo No'eau. I've always made that available to everyone. So we have a bunch of folks on the meeting. So I'm not sure whether there's anybody who would like to offer an Olelo No'eau. Okay, well, if not.
I'm not sure what that is.
Well, you're gonna get a smattering of it today. So anyway, because I've always started the meeting with Olelo No'eau, it's just something I started when I became chair, and I was hoping that it would lend some grounding to the meeting, and we are the conduct and the business as we fall through. But so today the Olelo No'eau I think is kind of appropriate, particularly to agenda item 6. It's He Maya Uapa'a Ike Ko'o. And the translation is a banana tree well supported by props. And I don't know about if folks here grow bananas, but I can tell you harvesting them and banana plants can be very particular. When they become ripe and the fruit is heavy, the trees oftentimes fall over. Certainly when you go to harvest them, if they're tall trees and you're by yourself and you have to harvest them, it's mainly, if you don't have a good sturdy ladder, you got to cut the tree and then go stand under the bunch so it doesn't fall and break all over the yard. So that's my experience. So the reason I brought it up is because I just harvested 2 bananas yesterday, and banana bread is in the oven as we speak. But the Olelo also refers to a man well supported by his followers. So a person well supported by his followers. So if you can picture the banana tree and the props that might hold it up, I refer this again to item 6 on our agenda, where we're going to talk about leadership and hopefully, election of officers, and how, our job too also is to be, as a committee, to be a prop as well, and to support the leadership that's in place too. And by support doesn't mean tacit agreement or vocal agreement. It means support. So that's my Olelo No'eau for today. So let's call to order the members who are present, and I think we got to do so by saying aye. If I'm not mistaken, that's the new thing. Okay, so I will go through and start with you, Franz.
And sorry,
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
just
sorry.
one more clarifier as part of the new sunshine is that AC members need to keep their cameras on, at least a quorum of AC members, and then announce anyone who is with them in their location.
Right. Okay, Franz, did you hear that? If someone's in your house, you've got to acknowledge that as well.
There's someone in my house, but nobody in my room.
Okay. How's that work, Keiko? Okay, great. Shirley?
So I'm here as well, and I I do have people in my house as well, but like Franz, nobody in my room.
Okay.
And the
Kari?
door is closed.
Okay. Kari?
Sorry, I'm here, and my husband just left the office, so I'm by myself now.
Okay. I'm Charles Young, and I'm here in Kealia by myself as well, attending this meeting. I do not see anybody else on, but my screen may not be inclusive of everyone who's on the call. Did I cover everybody? 1, 2, yeah, okay. All right. Thank you. Staff, I always like staff to introduce themselves, so I'll start with Keiko.
Aloha, Keiko Mercado in the planning department with approximately 7-ish other people around maybe.
Okay. I'm gonna go by who's on the screen first. So Jocelyn?
Jaslyn.
Jocelyn.
Yes. Well, Jazz, you can call me Jazz. About the same amount of people as Keiko, 7-ish.
Okay. I'll remember that Jazz. I thought when Heather put Jazz on top there, I thought it was going to be Jazz from the radio station. I'm sorry. I just, that's just my small mind. Heather?
Aloha, everyone. My name is Heather from the planning department, and all three of us sit within like 10 feet of each other. So yeah, I'm going to say 7 people as well.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move the announcements and the minutes to later. And we're going to ask, I guess, Sharon to go ahead and maybe give us that presentation.
Oh, did Sharon drop from the call? I don't see her.
Yeah, she was having some connectivity issues, so she's going to log out and log back in real quick.
Okay.
Keiko, we do have our governor's proclamation stuff. The boring stuff. Should we do that?
Sure. Is that me? It is me. I get the boring stuff. Okay. So usually we just read this before each meeting is started so that we everybody has kind of a clear idea of what we're doing and why we're here on this Zoom. Pursuant to the governor's proclamation related to the Sunshine Law, in-person meetings dated January 26, 2022, the requirement to have at least one in-person meeting location has been suspended through March 25, 2022. No in-person meeting location will be provided during this period unless the suspension is earlier terminated or suspended by a separate proclamation. And so members of the public have the option to watch the joint action, have the option to watch the Kona Action Committee meeting live on the Planning Department's YouTube channel, which Heather was sharing. We have some participants doing so. And then people were also given the opportunity to join the Zoom link. And so we're happy to see Cheryl and Lamakur here with us in the Zoom. And yeah, we continue to ask for your patience as we navigate through this. And we know that the rules are going to change again come March 25th. So we'll have a different announcement and a different way of functioning after that. Thanks.
And since we're all pretty familiar with this, but we do have some kind of ground rules so that we make sure we're all kind of speaking the same language here in our Zoom call. Please remain muted and minimize distractions to not take away from the person that's speaking. If you would like to speak, you can raise your hand physically, or we have a raise hand function on Zoom that you can use. And if anybody is not sure how to do that, please speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, I'm pretty sure by now we're all pretty familiar with Zoom. Also please note that the Zoom chat function is not available readily on YouTube to the public. And it may not also be reflected in our official meeting minutes. Members of the public that are here with us, please feel free to use the chat function to share your thoughts and input It's valued by us and the Action Committee members. You're also encouraged to sign up to provide testimony. And we do try to keep your comments incorporated into the minutes as much as it is practical. If you're joining us on YouTube, please feel free to leave a comment in the chat box area. We are monitoring the chat the best we can. As you can see, all of us are kind of going back and forth from several screens. So we're all multitasking, but we do try to pull you into the conversation as much as possible. And sorry, I'm also reading my notes here. Speaking of multitasking. And lastly, mahalo for being here and for following along with us in this. And we host our meeting information on our website. We send out email reminders and information to our mailing list. We're also available as staff are available via phone, email, and you can find us at the Planning Department Hilo office. And we try to be an open book and here as a resource for the community. So please feel free to contact us. And if everybody is feeling comfortable, and Sharon, if you are doing okay over there, we'd love to hear your presentation.
Thank you. Mahalo for having me. My name is Sharon Hiwata. I work for the County of Hawaii with the Office of Housing and Community Development. And thank you for allowing me to take some few minutes out of your agenda time this evening to share about some of the programs and resources that we're working hard in connecting our community members who need their help to. And so a lot of these programs came out of, are funded by the federal government and is in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, providing opportunities for family to connect to available resources. So I'm gonna walk you through. You can see my screen and sharing. Good. Okay. Just want to make some changes. Okay. So some of the items that I want to just briefly touch base over this evening is to kind of give you an update on the emergency rent assistance program, the Landlord-Tenant Mediation program, the launch of what we're calling the Coordination Center, Homeowner Assistance Fund, and finally, the launch of our Financial Empowerment Centers. So we'll start with the emergency rent and utility assistance program that we launched in April of 2021. As of last week, Saturday, we serviced over 1,800 unique households island-wide, paying out over $13.6 million in rent and utilities to those who were impacted directly or indirectly by the COVID-19 pandemic. We are currently on contract with Hawaii Community Lending, who is our lead contractor, who turned around and then connected with 6 on-island nonprofit organizations in the delivery of services. Very unique partnership allows opportunity for these 6 organizations to use the same application, the same set of policies to administer the program, work in collaboration and partnership to ensure that there is no wrong door. An applicant can apply and can receive services from any of these 6. What it also allows is, because of the processing of the applications and the decision making here on the island, it allows for quick turnaround time. It also keeps a number of our community members employed who otherwise may have lost their job due to the slowdown due to the pandemic. So program continues to accept applications. We're getting close to ending our first round of the program, which ends in June of 2022. But just recently we launched or issued a request for proposal announcing the second round of a similar type program for our community members. That program would then take us out to September of 2025. So if you know of anyone who have fallen behind in their rent and or utilities and need assistance, there is federal funds available to help out our families. The next one is Landlord-Tenant Mediation Program. Back in August of last year, the moratorium on evictions was lifted by the governor, allowing landlords then to take action if their tenants were behind in their rent to move through the eviction process. The state legislature made some modifications to the landlord-tenant code that required that upon the issuance of potential eviction notice, that they be provided the opportunity to connect with the mediation center. So the county went on contract with both Kuikahi Mediation Center in East Hawaii and the West Hawaii Mediation Center that services the west side of the island, providing free, no cost, free mediation services. I will tell you that we anticipated this whole slew of evictions coming through the court system, and it was just the opposite. And I will tell you that 95% of the households that received eviction notices from their landlords, 95% of them were resolved and were able to stay housed. The other 5%, which is less than 20 households, either chose the relationship just didn't work out and both parties decide to part their own ways, or the family decided that they didn't want to, they were going to look for other opportunities. So we're very happy to have both of the mediation centers on board with us and providing such valuable services to those that need it. The next one is the coordinating center. The county is on contract with Neighborhood Place of Kona. And although their home base is out of KL, they are servicing the entire island. The coordination center is truly that. It's a one-stop space that people can call and connect to a resource navigator that will help them kind of navigate based on their current situation, the various resources that are available in the community. They are using an electronic platform called Unite Hawaii to track the referrals, to ensure that there's follow-up. So all of the data in terms of the services that are being requested by the families are being input into the system. The referrals are being tracked. When a referral is made from one agency to the other, the receiving agency gets a ping through an email saying, for example, Sharon is looking for housing. It is received by the agency. They kind of go into the system and kind of connect with the family and kind of give an update of where they are in terms of the referral, whether or not they were able to help the family, if they weren't able to help the family and why. And then it sends that message back to the initial organization that did the referral for follow-up. And one thing that we like about the system that we're piloting right now is that if you've ever been working one-on-one with clients who are juggling multiple things in life, just in general, young children, working, going to school, a lot of times case managers find that when they do the referrals and they ask them to follow up in 2 weeks, nothing has gotten done. So this time it kind of alleviates that and allows the two organizations to work closely together to help the family in need. So again, island-wide, I'll be sharing a copy of this PowerPoint with Keiko and the team, and then they can turn on and forward it on to you. But very easy. It's either connecting through a Neighborhood Place of Kuna's website, by calling them, or by text. Next one is the Homeowner Assistance Program. So we've been running rent assistance for a number of months. We're now offering homeowner assistance grants up to $30,000 to assist homeowners who are in financial hardship to pay pass-through mortgages or reduce monthly payments. We've got a lot of inquiries from homeowners going, okay, you're helping out our renters. What about us homeowners? But homeowners who have fallen behind, that again, federal funded, helping families who are at the 150% of the area median income and below, which is pretty high. So even if families have gone back to work, we've been able to help We launched this program in November of last year. And thus far, we've approved, so far we've approved 2 families. And I will tell you as people go, what took so long? So we have HUD counselors who are working alongside the program administrators, ensuring that that we're looking at the total picture of the homeowner, because the plan is long-term sustainability, right? So when we look at, okay, so I'm behind in my mortgage by $20,000, just get me caught up. Well, the bigger question is, can you afford it, right? If there's been change in income and your mortgage is, let's say, I don't know, $1,500 a month, can you, moving forward, even if we get you caught up in your mortgage, can you continue to afford the $1,500? In most cases, what we've seen, the answer is no. And so in both of our cases, in both of the cases that have been approved, they've used the $30,000 to pay down the mortgage that reduces the monthly amount. So the family can now afford moving forward. And we're assured, provided they continue in the same path, being able to stay housed and keep the home as part of their asset. So we're excited about the program. It covers not only mortgage, but if there are people on fixed income who says, I fell behind on my taxes, I fell behind on my HOA or other housing related expenses, we will take that also into consideration. So if you know a family or friends that have been impacted and are homeowners, we may be able to help them. And then finally, the launch of our Financial Empowerment Center. We've been working on this plan for a number of years, really reaching out to our community about their need in the community. And so in October of last year, just in timing all of this, we launched the Financial Empowerment Center in partnership with funding from the cities for financial empowerment out of New York, Hawaii Community Foundation, the county, and our 2 counseling partners being housed out of Hawaii First Federal Credit Union and Hawaiian Community Assets. So let me just, sorry, okay, wait, sorry, I don't think I can play the clip. I don't think you can hear it, that's why. So I'm gonna stop sharing and then go back in again. So hold on. Yeah. Here we go.
We are so excited to announce the opening of Hawaii County's newest public service, the Financial Empowerment Centers. The Financial Empowerment Centers will offer professional one-on-one financial counseling to all of Hawaii's residents who are 18 years of age or older with no income or asset restrictions. These services will be offered at no cost. We know that financial issues can be complicated, and sometimes folks just need a little help to navigate the services that can be challenging on their own. So the centers will be staffed with trained financial counselors who can help residents manage their money, decrease their debt, increase their savings, establish credit, and access all of the other services that will be offered at the centers.
Hawaii Community Foundation is using a change framework to identify where the biggest gaps are in our community, where the needs are. We believe that we can do this in partnership with our donors, the nonprofit organizations, community, business, and government.
When our administration took office, we had a mission of helping people thrive, not just get by. But it's hard to thrive if you're struggling with debt, if you're trying to make ends meet, if you're trying to just put food on the table, or you're trying to get into school and looking for grants or funding to do that. Financial Empowerment Centers are there to help you get a leg up, to help you thrive, to help you find financial stability.
This is our chance to get our leg up in life, to create financial stability for our keiki and their keiki to come. Please visit one of the links on the screen or call the number to request an appointment today. We'll see you soon. Aloha.
Thank you. So it's been years in having multiple discussions about what this would look like for Hawaii Island. So the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund was actually started out of New York, out of the Bloomberg Foundation. They stood up over the last 10 years and funded a number of financial empowerment centers. The county is a member of its coalition. We're the only member coming out of the state of Hawaii. And they provided us with funding to support the planning side of the implementation, and now we've entered into a 2-year agreement, and they are providing us financial support to implement this program. So using their successes that they've done in large metropolitan cities, we kind of looked at it from a rural perspective and who we are as a community here on Hawaii Island. We are the first in the state to launch and be a partner with the Cities for Financial Empowerment in the launch of the FEC. And so as you can see from the screen, it's really truly a collaborative effort here in the delivery of services. The county is just a partner in here, coordinating the work in the delivery of services. Our counseling partners, as I mentioned, the credit union, as well as Hawaiian Community Assets. I'll share with you some of our community partners, our funders, and most importantly, our training provider. And so we're so fortunate that Hawaii Community College stepped in through their advanced program and took a curriculum that was built out of New York, brought it into our islands, and then modified it to incorporate who we are as a community and our local values. So we're just fortunate that they were able to do it. We've had 15 individuals complete the advanced training, and of that, 7 have moved on to become FEC counselors, and all have passed the FEC training criteria to be FEC certified. And we just owe it to the community college for stepping up and doing not only the curriculum building, but the training to ensure our community members were able to pass and meet the criteria. So what is a financial empowerment center? It's really based on some core values. It's one-on-one professional. We're looking at opportunities to integrate the delivery of services into other community-based organizations, looking for opportunities to refer at the right time, at the right moment, and also meeting people in their place, in their space. We're very resilient community members here. We're filled with social capital that surrounds us. And so it's not about people not being able to manage their finances or figure out. All we're here to do is to connect individuals to appropriate resources and to guide them on their journey, whatever that journey may be. So when you look at the Empowerment Center and some of the basic setup of what they do, they engage and connect with the family. They get to know them and do what they call a financial health assessment, and really try to work with the family to figure out what they are trying to address, whether it's building credit, whether it's managing student loans because they just came out of college, whether it's just understanding the different types of credit that are out there, or building a savings plan as they work towards becoming a homeowner, or even being able to say, I have a safety net if one of life things hit us and we're not expecting it. So we'll come up with a plan and determine milestones, and then the counselors will work with them to determine some of the outcomes they'd like to achieve. And these are just some of the examples being provided. And so when we look at the FEC as being, intricate part of the delivery of services, you'll see how we are working towards connecting with the different agencies, community-based organizations, legal services or utility companies, even our reentry as individuals exit out of corrections and into re-entering into our day-to-day population. Are they prepared? And what are the pinpoints that we can connect with them to ensure their stability, continued stability outside of the corrections? And so here are some of our partners. When we put in our grant to become an FEC, these organizations stepped up and said, we're with you, County of Hawaii, and we will work with you to figure out how to integrate and integrate the delivery of the FEC referrals to and from into the organizations. One unique partner that just came on board is Hawaii Island Community Development Corporation. It's a nonprofit housing developer from Hawaii Island who's been doing a lot of self-help, a lot of the multifamily projects around the island. They are preparing to develop a affordable housing project in Kona. And part of their strategy is to connect with the FEC. They just recently signed a memorandum of agreement. The developer and managing agent is going to provide free space for the FEC to have an office on site so that when the residents are living at the site and are looking for opportunities to address some of their financial concerns, or even looking at opportunities to move from rental to other rental opportunities or rental to homeowner, they will have someone on site who will be able to provide them in the delivery of services. So we're excited about that partnership and hope that there will be other housing developers who will take heed and will do the same. So you see, we have a wide range of different organizations, including working with our real property tax department. So if people are falling behind on their taxes and are looking for resources to help pay down their taxes, working through the FEC and figuring out how they be able to help our community member. So our counselors, I just want to give you a sneak peek. Here they are from Hawaii First Federal Credit Union and Hawaii Community Assets. We just added three more to the counselors. We have a total of 6 on island right now. So again, thank you very much for providing me with the space to share about our work. If you have questions or need more information, or you're connected to other organizations that you believe should hear about the programs that we're doing, or just want to learn more, please feel free to reach out. Like I said, I'll share the PDF of this presentation, and Keiko and her team can share it out to the group. So thank you. And I'm open if anybody has questions.
Yeah, this is Chuck Flaherty. I just wanted to say that's incredible. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think that's really good work. I think you're doing, and really timely. I think as well, and it's probably something I could have used as a young man too. In terms of the educational piece and what have you. So really, just really good work. I had a question, and council members as well. I don't know that COVID is a good baseline, to determine, or what COVID has caused is a good baseline to say what the true needs are. But because I think they exacerbated and maybe made it more complex and clouded. We've had this concern. The committee has, about affordable housing. And you mentioned about people maybe living beyond their means, in terms of, geez, what might be their rent and what might be their capabilities to pay it, once they fall behind. Are you finding that people that come to the program, are paycheck to paycheck sort of, persons that any sudden emergency is going to cause that kind of, real emergencies sort of? And would you think, folks, if more affordable housing was available, that it might, decrease perhaps the depth to which some people have been affected by the debt that they went into. I know those are, I don't know, hard to answer questions, but we're really trying to grapple with applying more affordable housing, I believe, and we don't. It's a number to some people. It's just, affordable housing is this number and it's based on something. But there's a lot of people, I think, that could use that help, and they're not numbers. So I'm just wondering if you have, you said you were collecting data too, and whether that was part of the collection, and whether going forward, you guys plan to collect that kind of info.
So the answer is yes, we are collecting data because I think on the other side, right, it's really understanding where for the lack of a better word, where the pukas are, right? Where are local families falling because no other safety net? And so part of it, as you said, right, there are many families that we know and studies that have been done here on Hawaii Island. We call them, I don't know if you folks are familiar with the word ALICE, right? Asset limited, income constrained, employed. So these are families that are working, right, and just getting by. More importantly, because of Kona and the increase in just the lack of, right? And so people talk about affordable, right? And I really struggle personally with that word affordable because affordable means different things to different people. So I truly believe, and our housing ministry believe, that we have to have this wide range of appropriate level housing, right? For those that are at the low income category up to whatever the levels are. But we have to have a mix of different housing options for everyone. So yes, we are collecting data so we can take it back. Number of families who are living paycheck to paycheck, and we really, this FAC is an opportunity for them to really have an open conversation with someone, right? Because I think many of us, including myself, at least when I was growing up, right? You mentioned the word money and your parents give you the stink eye going, no worry, right? As long as you got a roof over your head and food on the table, you have nothing to worry about. At least that's what I grew up with, right? And then you become parents yourself and you have to learn to manage all of that. So what we're just trying to do is provide people with that opportunity to say, hey, we're here to help you. We're not telling you what to do. We just want to connect you with potential, give you ideas and connect you with potential opportunities to build that safety net. So when that medical issue comes up and you got to go, emergency room, or when that tires needs to be changed, because if I don't change my tires, I cannot get to work. How do we address those needs? So yes. And then working alongside, at least in our housing office, our development arm, to develop appropriate housing at all levels. And I don't know if you followed, but yesterday on the council, kudos to them, truly appreciate. Thank you, Shirley, for advocating. But Bill 111 got passed out of council. Bill 111 provides almost $9 million in funding annually for the next at least 5 years to provide funding to support housing, homeless programs and housing. And so this is the first time in the county's history that there will be county funds available to support these types of services. And so we want to take it and make sure we use it wisely and provide the much needed services as well as appropriate housing to address the needs of our community members and really taking care of our ohana so they remain home here on Hawaii Island. So I hope I answered your question. Okay. And I also I can offer my boss, but my boss is the housing administrator, Susan Coons. She was the one that spoke on the video, but she can also, we can reach out to her to see if she would be willing to share information about, some of the projects that are coming down the pipeline and where they are in regards to housing in both East and West Hawaii, and also share briefly, as she did yesterday at the council meeting, about the strategic roadmap that our office is working on to address housing here on Hawaii Island. So both two key components that we're working on. So.
Well, thank you very much for your time and the presentation. And council members, any comments, discussion? And I guess we have quorum now to.
Charles, this is Lamaku Mikahala.
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I would like to speak and ask us some questions of Sharon.
That should be okay. I want to get through the council people first, if I can, or the committee people first. Lamaku,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Yeah. So I just want to offer them the opportunity to comment or ask questions of Sharon.
I see Janice has her hand up.
Okay, Janice.
Thank you. Thanks for, I'm sorry I was late. I have senior care until in the afternoons. Thank you for the great presentation and all the great ideas and the hard work. Think of it in land use planning terms as the CDP action committee. I don't know where, I mean, I keep thinking about how we need to integrate the people who we're talking about who need housing into our community. And that would be, as far as land use planning goes and development, where it is and not creating satellite. I mean, this is kind of, I don't know if it's even germane in a way, but it's just when I think of it and I hear about it, I think, how do we best integrate our community so that not only do people get a home or they get money, but they get actually to be a part of a community that lifts them up and can help instead of having a satellite, you know, community where everybody has to have a car and they're sitting out there, you know, the middle of nowhere that's going to be somewhere, you know, in 40 years, you know. So I just hope that, you know, we can integrate that all together so that, you know, mixed use, I think, is what we're supposed to be aiming at. And I think that will help lift a lot of people's boats, you know, if we can keep that in mind. Thanks.
Thank you, Janice. Any other committee members?
Yeah. No, I had my hand up as well. So,
oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know it's hard to scroll through and see who you've got, you know, you've got there. So I also want to thank you, Sharon, for making this presentation to us. There, you know, I'm involved in all these issues with you in other places, and it was wonderful that we got Bill 111 passed yesterday. That should give us a nice infusion for some of these projects. But I also wanted to mention that at the Finance Committee meeting, the County Council's Finance Committee in yesterday morning, that Sharon Coons, Susan Coons, Sharon's boss, spoke to the County Council and gave them an update of the different projects as well. And I noticed that they were the things that she talked about at our joint meeting in January. So the idea that housing plan and that now the county has awarded a contract for consultants to start working on a housing plan will make a big difference. And that's something we've been advocating for in our discussions anyway with the CDP. So I'm thrilled to see that that's moving ahead as well. That should integrate some of these things that we'd really like to see. And I'm sure they'll be looking at our CDP plans to look at integration as well as to where, you know, housing needs to be. So thank you.
Thanks, Shirley, for your efforts too. Anyone else? Lamaku, you want to go?
Thank you. Thanks, Charles. I'll be very short. Keep me short, okay? Make it in divisions here. Sharon, he wrote to Aloha. This is Lamaku Mikahala Roy. And I am crediting and thanking you folks for your hard work. And I'm also wishing to speak about some particular areas that need improvement. First of all, when we talk about Kona, I want to keep it to 3 areas. I'm going to start with the particular one of the financial empowerment centers. When I heard of this, I called the county and I said, congratulations that you did this. I have not heard of such a thing, only to find out on going into it with a particular party, there was no help for this particular party. And I did not see any reason for this, not the inability to help. The family had needed to call up and get credit for paying for home care for their seniors during this pandemic. And now when it came time to taking care of self after taking care of the seniors, there was healthcare needs and so forth. Couldn't work to make funding to pay back those loans. So this is the basic scenario. No help from this program. No help from a community member who is from Kona, who has every background to call on. No help. And so that's one thing I want to speak on. The second thing is when you talk about community housing, affordable, I want to bring in my testimony when I spoke against Yali'i Parkway, because remember, this is appropriate. Long-range planning has heard about my testimony that the ancestors of Uibi reporting at Ahuenaheau have reported that from Kaloko to Honaunau, this strip of land is important to history of the longest time. This no longer can be thought of to be built upon the way that it is now. These are all royal lands anyway. And unfortunately, all of our people are in Kahuku, in Ocean View right now. There are no appropriate enough party areas to take care of the people. They're shunted. They're not really helped at all, as I see it. The third thing is, so it's a disappointment. All of you are very capable in your department, Sharon. And I wonder why, I find the county is right there to help developers when they get pitfalls and they can't afford this or that. The government's there to help them out. How come they are not here to help the people out? In a pandemic, no hoi. I'll let you answer.
Lamaku, if I might ask, this is a action committee for the Kona development plan. So I might ask you, what would you like the action committee to take action on? The subjects you bring up are all, relevant, but there has to be, something behind it, that the action committee can actually make a statement on and hopefully find some action behind that to do it, because this is, it's a planning issue, it's a public works issues, that it's very complex, it's a public housing issue and all of those things. But so if we get down to, just one thing that the action committee can do, because we're trying to formulate a plan ourselves. We have the same concerns you have. And we're trying to make sure that we get as much input onto the action committee as we can from all views. So, that might help us as well. And
thank you, Charlie. I'm just giving you feedback as a result of listening to Ms. Hirota. I'm giving you firsthand results of my interaction with regard to a family that inquired with them. And so I want to say that it's all nice talk, input from California, from New York, and etc. We are the ones with the cherished lands. We are the ones with the aloha. We are the ones that teach the world how to cope and to live. It's our prize, this land. So I'm responding to Sharon's presentation because I know a case in point that was not helped.
Well, okay, thank you for your comments. Again, I don't know that the action committee is geared towards, trying to address that issue, because we have.
I think it's important that you folks know, though, because it sounds very nice, but yet, remember, I'm giving you this feedback that I called even the mayor's office to commend them. And yet, when it came to the action of this program, this was not helpful. And I wonder why not? again, it's the county and the government's there to help developers. How come they're not there to help the people who live here?
Well, thanks for your comments, and I'll leave it up to Sharon as whether she wants to, how to respond. Thanks.
So I guess Nikki Hala, if you want to have conversations offline about you know, the family that you believe didn't get help through FEC, we are always trying to improve ourselves. So always looking at opportunities. I kind of, in regards to, you know, the development of housing and on that aspect, I'm not in a position at the Office of Housing to speak on that. I would need to defer to our housing administrator, but certainly I did take notes, and we'll ensure that I communicate that to her and the deputy.
Okay, thank you. If there's no more questions or comments, I think for Sharon, we need to pick up the agenda.
Mr. Chair, Charlie, I just had one question of Sharon.
I missed you. Yeah, go ahead.
Sharon, so could the action committee be a tool for getting the word out, and can you somehow get the presentation information that you have so that it can be spread through social media and whatnot? And also, are y'all doing things like, for instance, if someone has a prescription drug that they can't afford, you know, there are resources, like there are grants that they can apply for that go up to like $7,500 a year, things like that. Do y'all refer people for those as well?
Yes. So again, it's a case-by-case basis. If you're talking specifically, you know, there's also the Community Action Network that has some grant dollars to help those in need. So it's really working with the family to figure out what position they're in and to see if there are appropriate funding to support them. And if they're not, if there isn't, I wish we had, we had dollars to help in every situation, but because the funding to support some of this, some is private, some is federal, some comes to the state, they all come with certain criteria. And so it's just a matter of ensuring that the applicant who has a need, which bucket, so to speak, for lack of a better word, can we fund them through? So yes, we will have information available. We do have flyers. My team is working on making it so that it can be posted through social media, but we'll also make this PowerPoint available to all of the members.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, John. I'm going to ask staff to give me a hand here because sometimes I miss the hands going up. So, just go ahead and interrupt me or whatever it takes to get me back in place, because the yellow is hard to see on some of the backgrounds of what people have. So, okay. Is there any other discussion for Sharon?
If not, thank you very much for having me and for sharing. And again, reach out to me if you have questions or need further clarification. Appreciate the time that you gave me. Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you. Keiko, if we were to pick it up, we would go back to the announcements, and so it was basically to ask anyone on the committee if they had anything to share, because this would have happened in the beginning of the meeting and we're kind of in the middle of it. So I would go back and just ask anybody on the committee now that if there's something that you might want to discuss before we get into the thick of the agenda or bring out. No? Okay, no. Okay, I don't see hands. So there was no one who signed up for any of the agenda items, but we just wanted to make sure that if there's someone in the public who did want to speak, that we gave an opportunity as well. Okay, so if not, then we're going to move to the approval of the draft minutes for the November 10th, 2021 meeting. I think most of you have that. I need a motion to accept and a second, and then we'll go on to discussion.
Hi, Kari Kimura. I move to accept the minutes from November 10th. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I second it.
Okay, so it's been moved by Kari and second by Janice. So most of you have, well, I think all of you have the minutes are there. Are there any comments, discussions, amendments, edits? I had a couple of follow-ups. Chuck, in our minutes, I mentioned some things that you might be following up with in terms of documents to the AC. The chapter 27 flood control, chapter 10 soil erosion control stuff. And I just wanted to ask whether
I should be back on the end of March. I had pulled all of those records last time I was in town, and I was not able to get them to the planning department. So I have them, I've located them. There's a lot of information. So I very much calamai for not getting it there. Maybe I can arrange for someone to pick that up and drop it to the planning before I get back there, if it's a matter of time. I know the flood control committee subcommittee, I haven't really heard anything back with regard to that. So unfortunately, my life is sort of like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So I hear you squeaking, so.
I wasn't meant to squeak, Chuck. I just, when I noted it, I thought to myself, this is good information. It's very important. I did want to take advantage of your offer. So,
Yeah.
and I know you're busy and you're traveling, so I wasn't trying to, put you on.
No, I'm just, that was a joke. I wasn't trying to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of serious. I mean, all jokes have a kernel of truth, right?
That's true. Okay. Are there any comments, edits to the minutes? Okay, so if not, I'm gonna ask that all in favor, please raise your hand or use a thumbs up to indicate that you approve the minutes. So it's an aye for me. I see Shirley with a hand, Franz with a hand, Kari with a hand, and Janice. So it's unanimous. Cool. Okay, so again, we have no public comment on any agenda items at this point. No one applied. So Sharon's done her presentation. Next is the January 9th joint AC meeting, communication 2022, which I think all members had or should have in their possession. It was a meeting that was held jointly, and 3 of our members, I think, participated, myself, Kari, and Franz. So we wanted to have a discussion on that and allow folks to make comments or ask questions. We need to approve those minutes first. So if I can get a motion to approve the minutes of January 19th, 2022 joint AC meeting.
I move to approve, Kari Kimura. I move to approve the joint AC meeting minutes from January 19th.
I second. This is Franz.
Thank you. So moved by Kari, second by Franz. So for those of you who didn't attend, was there anything in there that struck you and or that you want to have a discussion on? Because there's a lot of people attending who are not actually from our district as well. It was a joint AC meeting, so we did hear a lot of comments from other communities and other districts, and I thought some of the comments that were made were kind of interesting as well. But members, committee, any comments? Yeah, there were a couple of things that stood out to me, so I'm just going to pass those on because I think there were, there was comments in there about how other committees are struggling as well with the way things are, have to move under the Zoom and the COVID conditions. So, I think our committee members have voiced that opinion as well, and so we're not alone in that area. So, but it was a great meeting. I hope we're able to, I hope we're able to have more. I think they're scheduled. So, if there are no comments or additions, Janice, are you raising your hand? I think you're muted.
I'm sorry. Okay, here I am. I was just wondering, since I didn't attend, and I'm sorry that I couldn't, what stood out as really constructive or to the AC members or any of the public that's there? Was there something in particular that felt like it was helping us move forward, just gathering good information? Like what topic felt like it was important and constructive?
I'll let Kari or Franz go ahead, and you were there.
So I think one thing that makes it really worthwhile is because it's a larger group, you have more presenters from the county. That makes it, they can't really come to every meeting for every CDP, but we had so many. So we had 4 different heads from different departments making presentation, and that's kind of unusual. Yeah. So that's a big advantage, having a large group of CDP action committees all together. We can request more in-depth information.
Thanks, Franz.
Yeah, I agree. I think the format for information delivery it's really great. I mean, understand someone like Christine Kubat, right, from Recycle Hawaii, if she had to go to every single CDP to present zero waste, I mean, think about the time sink for her and the travel. I think this format for information sharing is very effective.
Thanks, Kari.
If I could just throw out really quickly too, I think a lot of people were asking about how the agenda gets formulated. And some of it is folks come to us to ask to present to the action committees. But then the other piece of it is we were able to have Christine Kubat because Chuck brought it up at a Kona Action Committee meeting. And so to be able to share that members of the community are suggesting these topics and these speakers at action committee meetings, it allows us to show that we're kind of inclusive of everybody. And everybody was just thrilled with Christine's presentation. So thanks, Chuck, for that. That was awesome.
I'm so glad to hear that came together. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it really helps when you hear from the other communities in the islands, the similarities in the issues, and then the diversity in the issues as well. And some of the things that they're struggling with are quite in common with what we are. Susan Kuntz, she put a number out there: 10,796 affordable housing units is what they think they need. It's a 5-year sort of forecast. And those kinds of numbers are the ones that kind of stagger you. And we've been talking about it, for a while. And I think there are other issues on the agenda where, there's a quote here that says, tight rules made it impossible to respond to issues in a timely manner and allow discussions on items that are not on the agenda. And these are folks from other committees who are saying that. And we have been trying to work with staff at ways where we can improve our ability to meet, whether it be by subcommittee and because of the COVID restrictions and the quarterly meetings. So I want to make sure we continue those discussions and and try to assure that we take advantage of whatever progress we can make in terms of getting, allowing ourselves to meet more often, so we can be more effective. So if there are no other comments, we have a motion to accept and a motion and a second. So if we can have a show of hands of all in favor, indicate by raising your hand. I see 1, 2, 3. Oh, Shirley's got her yellow hand up. Okay, so it's unanimous. Okay, so next on the, we were going to talk about the letter that was sent out, communication 2022-7. So it's a draft letter regarding the Hawaii Invasive Species Council outlining action committee support for the Hawaii Ports of Entry Biosecurity Program. You should have copies of that. Committee members will discuss and vote on finalizing the letter. So can I get a motion to approve that letter before we start discussion in a second?
Well, I'll make a motion to approve that letter. I just had a question on the agenda because it has two different numbers on it. So it's one says communication 2022-7 and another says 2022-6. So I'm not sure which one it is.
That's correct. So the 07, that's the letter. And then the 06, you should find that also in the meeting packet, and it's background information for the Ports of Entry program.
Oh, okay. So we're moving to approve the communication number 2022-07.
That's correct.
That's my motion.
Yeah. Thank you, Shirley. Any second?
I second it. Kari Kimura.
All right, okay, thank you. So, you know what the intent of the letter is? Does anybody have any really things to add or comments in what's there? It's a letter. It's basically just a letter of support.
We can provide a little bit of background on this too and where it came from. This was originally introduced by Franny Brewer, who's the chair of the Kona AC. And so this is something that's near and dear to her heart. She shared it with the Puna Action Committee, and they had the thought of introducing it to the other action committees as well to get island-wide support for this initiative. So that's where it came from. I just thought that was an interesting way for us to kind of link our efforts together as action committees.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I would also comment that the original letter had some very particular pests and invasive species that they were identifying. And we have some very specific and peculiar pests in Kona, which are different from the other areas. So I think it's important that we also kind of like highlight that invasive species is an island-wide issue, not necessarily specific to the first letter. So some wording was added so that we would be, it was appropriate as well for Kona.
I see Janice has her hand up.
Yeah. I see Franz has his
You
hand
know,
up.
I'm embarrassed, but I don't have the letter. I don't know if there was some emails that I wasn't receiving for some, who knows what reason, in the ethers. But I did want to say, as a person who's been, in the landscape nursery business, ag business for, 30 years in Kona or more, a lot of time. That it's been really an interesting battle, I have to say, struggle to get the invasive species this issue up to the fore. And I've known there's some other people who have really worked hard to just try to, bring the attention of the public, but also lawmakers. And, so anything that can help move us that way, because, if you are on ag land or you know anything about it, you know, coffee's being decimated, you know, I mean, coqui frogs are one thing, but there's so many other things that have been just so damaging to ag and just to, you know, the environment in general. So I'm really glad to see that we get an opportunity to, you know, chime in and, you know, be able to share that with, you know, with me. There's a lot, you know, I'm always in contact with people who, you know, are in the ag industry. So I can, that's one thing that I can help, you know, pass along and promote. And I do try as it is, but it's nice to have something structured going on too. And support FISC very much. Thanks.
Thanks, Janice. I'm sure staff can get you a copy of that letter. It was in one of the packets that was sent out. Franz, did I see your hand up? There you go.
Yeah, I have a similar problem. So the package that we received, just the last one, I don't see it in there. And I see point 2 was the joint AC meeting report, which we just did. And then it goes to point 3, action committee priority setting exercise. So I don't see in that agenda what you just mentioned. So that's why I'm also a little bit confused about it. And that was the most recent 3rd version of the package, which was supposed to be complete. It was sent out.
Franz, sorry for the confusion on that one. We had originally published the agenda, and then this letter came to light after we published. And so we published a revised version. So maybe that's the reason for the confusion. We did post a link to the communication in the chat. If you can see that.
Yeah, that the letter came in late, Franz, and we kind of I reviewed it with staff, and we thought it was important enough to you know to get it on this month's agenda so that we could actually have that review. And so maybe some of the things got out late and got missed. My apologies, but it was really a late addition as well to the agenda, and I think the revised agenda came out, you know, fairly recently.
Sorry for the confusion on that.
You know, no worries. It's so we'll get you the letters. Okay. We were going to call for the question. Janice, you raising your hand?
I just put it down again. Sorry. Okay. We have a motion on the floor to accept the letter. Is that correct? Okay. 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 Thank you.
We do. Yes.
Okay.
I guess I want to offer, for those of you who haven't read it though, you know, that's not fair to ask you to vote on it either. I kind of think, should we give them some time? And if you send that letter out now, maybe we can take it up after some of the other agenda items. What do you think, Keiko?
Yep, we can do that, or we can share screen. Were you able to locate the letter, Franz? Janice, did you get yours through email? Okay.
Why don't we share screen, Keiko? Then we can all see it at the same time. If
Okay.
Yes, I got it, Keiko. Yes, thanks. I got it and I read it. Thank you.
Great.
That's a great idea. Thank you, Keiko. Hopefully you guys can see my screen.
Yep. Only a portion of the letter is, oh, there you go. If you scroll, that's great.
I think the part we really wanted to make sure that the committee was on board with was when the outline of the specific pests. So in the letter, the coffee bear borer, fountain grass, and fire ants are identified. And so just a question, I guess, of whether there's something else that you folks want to add in, like, I don't know, maybe the, yeah, 2-line spittlebug, I think it's called. So anyway, just an opportunity for you guys to really be ma'a about what invasives you're talking about. Go ahead, Janice.
Oh, I think they said like including, because it says to, from what's it say, intensity to the little fire ant, you know, so it seems like that it includes, you just feel like if we had a specific thing to say, it would help them focus more. Is that what, because there's so many, there's so many that I could sit here and just start to say it and it would be like stupid. So I mean, and it would probably be good to give them, I've been in touch with them some about some issues and past over the last couple of years. So that, you know, maybe if we do have specific interest or knowledge about it, you know, we could still share it with them. The letter seems like they're just keeping it a little bit more broad, so that it would include some other things. There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so, I just want to say such an interesting thing is that when I had my nursery, and I would call the state when I got invasive pests in some of the plants that I had, you know, bought or you know, saw on a job site. The state wasn't allowed to go to, there was just the weirdest rules. So even though they heard there was a pest and saw there was a pest, they couldn't go to that place unless it was going to be shipped inter-island. There were just so many odd rules. And you know, if these guys, like if this could be part of a subcommittee thing or something, because there's so many improvements that, you know, could be made in the legislation, especially separating county from state, you know, just having specifics for our islands could really help, because it was super frustrating in the past. Thanks.
Yeah, Franz?
I have one concern. One is that we are putting a budget amount there for expenses for things that we may not be able to control. For example, and we shouldn't control, it's really not our job as much. For example, if you want to ship papayas or certain fruit to California, you have to inspect them here before you can ship them out, not there. So I think what needs to be done, legislation that certain products need to be inspected before they ship out to Hawaii, instead of burden Hawaii with having to inspect everything here when it arrives, which is pretty much impossible. I mean, it's nice to put that money there and nice to have inspectors, but there's no way you can inspect, you know, hundreds of containers. You know, it's really spot check. And there should be a program that when they ship it out of California, what most of it comes at the airport where they have ag inspector. That's where the things should be done with plants too.
Well, the letter, we're going to have a discussion in the next agenda item on priority sending and stuff. Maybe we can home in on that in a little bit more detail on how we want to pursue. And maybe I don't know if we should be adding language to this because it's so complex. I don't know that a 2-page letter is going to, you know, catch everything that both you and Janice have just brought up. What are your thoughts on that in terms of let's support the letter for now, and then maybe get more detail in it if we choose to, the committee does. Go ahead, Janice.
Yeah, I think the intent is there. I think they included a lot to keep it broad. And I just think, you know, the more we put this out there, the more chance there is it will spread instead of the invasive species. So I think you don't want to have some really long involved thing. You know, I think that's what it seems like they work to hone it down, and I would support it. Like this.
Okay, well, we have it. If there's no more discussion, we have the question on the floor. So I would just ask for a raise of hands, you know, all in favor. Support the letter. Are we doing that?
Sorry, just because we're voting to push something through with the new sunshine, we have to do a roll call vote.
Okay. Charles Young votes aye. Janice,
Aye.
Franz,
Nay.
Shirley,
Aye.
Kari.
Aye.
So that's, oh, David.
Sorry, I just got back from Oahu. I apologize.
Okay, we've just been having a discussion and we're taking a vote on a letter to support Hawaii Ports of Entry Biosecurity Program. Did you receive the letter? Have you read it?
I received the letter, and unfortunately I wasn't involved. I just came in as you guys were ending the discussion, so I'm going to have to abstain until I can listen to the recording in full.
Okay. So that's 4, 1, and 1. Okay. So I guess that's a pass. All right. Okay, thank you, folks. Go ahead, Janice.
I say I would love to talk with you, Franz, because I'd love to hear more of what your concern is. I'm definitely into it, and I wasn't quite. I know I kind of got the gist of what you're saying, but I know since you voted against it, there's more to it. So I'm totally open to hearing more. So thanks. Whenever we get some spare time.
Okay, we're gonna close that item. But in this next item, it's really an action committee priority setting exercise. So we want to engage in, to establish priority implementation products, interest for 2022. Discussion will include exploring mutual interests between action committee members to create investigatory subcommittees and committee liaison groups as applicable. Joint initiatives with community members or partner organizations are encouraged.
Okay, hopefully you guys can see my screen, and hopefully you've already seen this as well. This list has been compiled based off of feedback I heard from you folks, along with taking some of the old priorities from prior goal setting exercises that we've done. So basically what this is a way for us to all see the priorities we've compiled. And I don't know if you guys remember in our old meetings, our in-person meetings, we had sticker dots and we could vote on the things that we wanted to work on using sticker dots. And so I kind of wanted to try to recreate that in a digital setting, which is difficult. So before we get into the actual voting part of it though, I wanted to give you folks room to discuss what's already been put on the table. And there's also room to add more things if anybody feels compelled to. So yeah.
Okay, so we're open for discussion. Some of these priorities were actually set before people got on the current folks are on, so they may not remember. Some of them, like the Open Space Network was a project that, in my opinion, continues. The Open Space Network should be covering all the things that we do going forward. It's not a one-off project. So I think people might view each item differently. The Ali'i Parkway and Kale Hope, the Parkway, which is a road issue. Laco Street was the connector, was a road issue. The Kailua Village Redevelopment Plan, I think, probably goes back, 20 years, maybe even longer. Affordable housing was something that we pushed on this committee, on the current committee, and some of the others. So, it's kind of open for discussion, I think, for folks. At least let's look at what's on this now, and what's on the list now, and action items, and maybe get your impressions of what for you might be the most something that we should be really homing in on and prioritizing, you know, and I know we have this list of 10, but as I said in the prior, prior action item, you know, I don't think we're closing off the subject matter to, you know, to discussions that are not necessarily on this list. But I think this is the starting point. So we should try and maybe home in on this, and for the sake, you know, for the other committee members, and this is certainly not a pathway, and it's not an example for anybody to follow, but my personal thing has been the affordable housing, which I had put on the, you know, as a priority for a long, for many of the years that I've been on this committee. So, you know, I still think that's important, and based on where we're going with some of the development, I think it's even more important now. But you know, and that water resource management is popping up really big too, because that's going to go hand in hand with development, all development, or at least the housing developments. So you know, those are my thoughts. So you know, I just want to, let's open it up to everyone, and let's see where we land. Franz?
So I think that the presentation for Sharon is a good example why I wouldn't prioritize anything. I don't think you can look at housing without looking at water management, and you need outreach to the community. Erosion control is a big thing also at the same time, because a lot of areas where right now we have homeless is areas that if the landowners just say, okay, we're going to clear it so they can't hide, you have an erosion problem. And that's why they have right now brush on there that causes fires. So there's a lot of issues. And the phase 3 is important because that may be able to provide more housing projects up there, access. So, and with the open network, I mean, that's really something we have to do before we start building houses. We have to see what places do we want to leave open and access. So I don't really would prioritize anything. I think the goal should be, we have to put everything together and find a plan that includes all this, all these aspects, not saying, okay, this is number 1, because I don't want to degrade anything else on the list. Thank you.
Thank you, Franz. Comments?
Charlie?
Yes, go ahead, Janice. Sorry, I didn't.
Thanks, Franz. That was a really, again, thank you for sharing that interesting perspective, because we have worked on a priority basis. I mean, when we were trying to get funding for something, like we had to prioritize, and I think that's like the Open Space Network got funding. You know, I think part of what you're saying is being flexible about what comes up too. You know, like when something is cooking somewhere else outside of the CDP, then, and we find it, we discover it, and it's happening, we want to be able to embrace it. I feel like as soon as we can have public meetings again, and not that people are going to be here, but I just think that also public outreach for all of it, to me, and I've said it before, I just think if we can somehow figure out how to just network better, as I think it's too tricky now, and I don't know what the plan is for when we're going to be able to have in-person meetings, but you know, and I don't think it's easy right now, even for individuals of us to go out and do stuff because of COVID. I mean, I can't lead a Zoom meeting, and as much as I would, and I probably can, but I don't have time to learn. And so as soon as, and I know we can still do outreach to people, and we're all working in our zone. But, you know, as a group, I just think to just try to get people involved however we can is just super important. So we're not working in a vacuum or feel like we are. And also, I think the public has lost track of what the CDP even is about. And so I feel like, you know, just bringing that all together, bringing people in so that they get just what Franz said, so that they understand exactly what Franz was saying, is that we are all real, no matter what our interest is, we are all connected in this. And and that, I just think in the beginning when we formed it, when the CDP was written, that was the moving force behind it. You know, the community was right there just going, yeah. And I think we just need to somehow regenerate that whenever we can, however we can. I think we're going to need money.
Charles, may I offer? This is Lamaku.
Yeah, Lamaku, can I get through the committee members again first, if you don't mind?
I'll be very brief, just to Janice's good words. I want to say that in the beginning, there are many people that were not for the Kona development plan. Why? Because it was developed in Pittsburgh. And what does Pittsburgh know about islands? So I want to say that because I think your words are right on, Janice. We need to get everybody in the know of what you folks are doing, because we've had a major event here. That's the priority, is to make sure everybody is all right and well before this kind of thoughts of development and planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamaku. Shirley had her hand up. Janice, let me go ahead and go through that. We'll come. Shirley?
So I'm looking at these action items, and if we're looking at priorities, what we've used the priorities for before was to maybe develop a subcommittee that could do some investigation. And that we already have the Kona Open Space Network Subcommittee, and also the Flood Mitigation and Irrigation Control Subcommittee, right? So I'm thinking, are we looking at these other priorities to develop another subcommittee, or just to keep in mind that we need to keep these in our minds as items come up?
Yeah, Janice, you had some thoughts to follow up on?
Just such great thought. Well, it was just one thing I wanted to say. Thanks, Mikahala. But I have to say that my sense of how the CDP happened was different than what you said. I do believe that we had some consultants that were expert from other places, but I felt like the outpouring of information that was local was just the most fantastic thing I had ever seen, that when actually became an ordinance. I mean, I so enthusiastic. And so that's why I feel really, I still have this burning thing in me, is because I think I there were 200 people, 300 people in that room, and we took expertise from all over the world. Really, there was a guy from Italy, and that, I mean, as much. So I just hope that we can use that. I believe it really came from us, as a community, like it was supposed to. I mean, I just want to keep it going that way. I think that, but anyhow, but thanks, Mikahala, and I'm just so glad that you're still involved. Since
I want to say though, Janice, that remember, this is an oral history place. It's not a documented history place. And right from the get-go, we have a history that talks about an overthrow. And that is not a resolved issue here. The truth is we are occupied, and it's not a done deal. I speak from Kamakohonu. This is the capital of the Kingdom of Hawaii. And I speak as the ancestors tell me to say to the people. How is it that I still hear from Hawaiian people, Janice? Gee, Mikahala, what can you do about these meetings here? Can you get there? And I said, where were you? Where were you in the beginning meetings so you could say something? Remember, there are many people that are voiceless in their land. This is a reality that is not adequately met yet, and I'm going to represent that.
Thank you, Lamaku. I mean, it's like we're all correct. There's no disagreement. I think in the discussions that we are having, we all agree. It's how we get to that place that we need to getting there the way we feel that we need to get there, and that's with making sure that we pay our respects to our history and our current, where we are currently, and try and do it respectfully. But we're struggling with the process, I think, in how to get there, and that is typical because in terms of Hawaiian process and Western process, there's differences, and we sometimes we can't even think in Western ways in terms of process, I'm saying. But to Franz's point, I don't think there's any reason why we cannot combine a discussion with any one of the topics that's listed here. As you say, affordable housing, going to water resource management. These things are in different departments within even the county. And it's a struggle to get the county to think in a larger sense too, because they're so preoccupied or so focused in on the devil that's in the detail. And so you come out with a great affordable housing plan that meets all the housing requirements and stuff. And then you find out, oh, geez, we don't have enough water to do this, or we don't know how to treat the water afterwards. So this is all true. Struggling with what Janice has to say, where does this committee find its place? Where's our bookmark? We got to go back to the CDP, but and what made the CDP work and pass was the enthusiasm of 10 years ago, and we've lost that enthusiasm, I think, or it's faded, or maybe we should say we've grown old. But leaving that out of it, so maybe this is not the right framework to view what we need to look in. To look forward to. But there are topics that we need to keep in front of us, because I think we all agree that these are very paramount to moving forward. So I, again, if I were to say that there was something important, I'm not going to put it as a priority, but it's something important I want to take a look at. I need to look at affordable housing. So hence I asked Sharon these questions about, how many people are really living paycheck to paycheck? What's the size of that need? Is 10,676 going to, as Susan said, is the need? And then, try to wrap my mind around how do we get there? And water is going to be an issue, location, geography, because people are not all going to want to live in the same place. And they're very complex. I understand that. And maybe we can work them out, as a subject topic. But so maybe prioritizing isn't the right thing, in terms of, say, we want to focus in on something, but maybe we should be looking at it in in a different perspective in terms of how we want to address them, because I think for us these are all important. So I'm sorry that's not an answer for anybody, but somehow we have to formulate ourselves so that we become effective as a committee. And I'm not quite sure. I'm the banana tree that just fell down. So let's put our heads together and say, okay, here's a list. How do we get to it? How best we can get to it? Janice?
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. Yeah, I think it's so interesting, but I think we have to have some focus, but we don't want to have too much focus. It's sort of like meditating, I think, but I think we just can't be all over the place completely. But then again, we should be open to something that comes in. But the list gives maybe it's our Western brain something to, hone in on. And it might help in outreach, just to have, some topics that we can focus on. But thank you. Anyhow, it's a great discussion.
Yeah. Heather, if I can maybe just make a suggestion for the committee, if we look at this and we let each member maybe work on this spreadsheet that you have now as a starting point, and maybe what each member can do is sort of look at that, add what they think is something that they're going to work on, and then maybe kind of work on a matrix of how we see these things being connected, so that we have something visual, in terms of looking at, and then we can start thinking about this in a visual way too. Because obviously I see the connection between water resources and affordable housing, but there's a process in which these two things are connected. And that's where we got to be at. We got to be in the process that gets us what we want. Lamaku is even suggesting that too in how she's presenting, the history, the oral history, and those were processes. That's how people got to where we are today. So that's where I guess I'm struggling with that, because I'm always been a 1, 2, 3 guy. You go do 1, 2, 3, and maybe this is not the most effective way for us to look at this. So I don't know, Franz, what you have more suggestions on in terms, because I think your thoughts are really warranted.
For sure. I'm also keeping an eye on the time and
Oh.
knowing that this is a huge topic for us to get into. So it could be something that we revisit later too, if that's something that
May
is
I
interesting.
just, Mr. Chair, may I just very quickly,
Yeah, Chuck.
I remember, I think everybody's right, but Heather, I remember there was a presentation where the planning department was identifying how all the CDP members were connected to different organizations. Because what I have found in my dealings with the community is that you have a lot of different people who are working on the same issue that don't know that one another working on the issue. They're champions, but they're only champions within their sphere of influence. And what I had seen as the meetings where all the CDPs are coming together was an opportunity to identify the champions and their spheres of influence and to bring them together so that you have those people who have the passion for water resources, for affordable housing, for cultural resources, and for history, and to be able to identify them and bring them together so that the work's, it's already being done. It's just to make things more efficient, to empower people, and to help things to move forward as far as legislation and proposals and plans. All these people have knowledge that they can contribute. So I think that would be a really great way to move forward. Thank you very much.
That's excellent. Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. You're preaching to the choir. I think that when I imagine Optimum Action Committee meeting, I imagine folks coming from all different corners of the community, bringing their mana'o from whatever community group that they're a part of and bringing heads together. So I'm 100%. And if that's something that we want to dig into more in a future meeting, I think that's awesome.
Heather, just one more point from Lamaku. I have news for all of Hawaii and all of the people that's unprecedented. We are hearing from the ancestors on the lands of Hawaii. Thank you all, especially Charles, for your leadership. Because you're right, we're all in here with mana'o that is to try to help the whole condition. I want to know how Kamali'i Parkway is being discussed when I've given reports of where it ended. And also I've given reports about the latest oral history that's come forward at Kamakohonu. From 2010, we've been beginning to hear from the ancestors, and I have collections that are for the people. I have voiced this to the government. They have written letters which you have received to the legislature, and no one acknowledges this. I will take it to the people. This is for the people. And this is an appropriate place to tell. You folks are a wise group that tries hard. So, but I am going to say to you, this is a big matter. All people in all of Hawaii, all the islands need to hear about this. This is unprecedented history of a spiritual nature. And this does not speak only about Hawaiians. This is for the benefit of mankind. Thank you.
Thank you, Lamaku. Chuck, you still have your hand up? Sorry, you might be on mute.
No, I'm sorry. That's one of my bad habits. I apologize.
It's okay. Franz, did you, sorry, I can't see you all on my screen. So just to let you know, if you think I'm ignoring you, I'm not. Any other comment? I did want to maybe just address Lamaku for a second, on the Li'i Parkway, because, as you know, I was on the Borough Council when we said no to the Li'i Parkway after years of testimony. The thing about it is the parkway itself didn't go through, but all the development that parkway was supposed to service did go through. And so you've got this huge sort of situation where there's a right-of-way that's there that is, just sitting there. And if we can find ways to to actually better the property. Don't call it a parkway, call it something else, call it whatever you want. Do we have a responsibility to look at that as well? Because right now it's, that right away in many areas is just going into disrepair. So I just want you to think about that. That's all. Because the intent is not, never was, and never will be to sort of repeat the mistakes that we made before. So, Janice, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, thank you for that. That's another deep subject. Yeah, and it's changed so much. So just back to the joint AC meetings, I think as long as we have plenty of our own ones, and I'm going to keep being, it's like the Open Space Network, I'm going to keep on talking about it. I mean, the whole purpose of the CDPs is to be region centric, and we don't want to lose that as much as we want to integrate, get information and share information with other regions. So as long as we have enough meetings of our own that make sure that we're focusing on our region, then I think it's really good, to do both, but not at the expense of the regional plan. Thanks.
Thank you. David, I'm sorry, I missed you.
Yeah, so I'm probably relatively new. I still feel relatively new to the action committee. Franz and I think came on about the same time. And one thing that I'm challenged by with what's going on with the action committee is I don't know, I know that Lamaku talked about the voice and what the voice of the committee has with the planning commission and the leeward planning, but also what it has in the community. I feel like I don't know where the wins and the losses are with what the action committee, what we are doing. What I'd like, I come from construction, I come from development. So I have history in that. I have experience. I have, many years in doing development. But I thought that my experience and knowledge base would be helpful to this. But what I feel like I'm lacking is where does the action committee have its wins? And what is the voice in the community? Lamaku talked about the Native Hawaiians and the ancestors that are one or not. And if I'm correct, Lamaku, what I hear is it's not being heard. And what is the community hearing from what we are doing? And maybe I'm naive and not knowing, because I don't have the experience or the depth of time being on the committee. So, help me out, anyone who can add voice to my concerns, because I'd like to, my question in being with the committee is, what difference are we making? I know that we put together the development plan and the Ali Parkway, but as you just mentioned, Charles, some of what had happened, it went one way, but it didn't go the way that it might have been beneficial to everyone. I am, like I said, I just have I have concerns. So anyone that can help me, and maybe this is an aside discussion, that it would be better that I have interactions with someone else on the side.
May I add, Charles, just a few words here? I'm very pleased to meet those people I don't know in these chats and meetings, and to hear your words. The Queen said, the voice of the people is the voice of God. Charles, you mentioned we laid the groundwork for something, roadway, right? But I'm going to tell you this: when that source we know, all of us as our maker, says something and does something, few people can contend with that, could we? A volcanic eruption, say one comes over and covers an area here. This would be something that's not discussed. It would be just dealt with and worked with. You know, in other words, we are all reminded to go back to that memory and that place of God in us. And I thank all of you, this gentleman that just spoke, you eloquently said, you respect what I'm saying. Thank you, because what I am saying is true. We have gone to the legislature. People don't know what to say about this. I am speaking as the Kahu of Ahu'ena Heiau, who has been hearing from our ancestors now with books of knowledge that are to go to the people. No response from the government has come. Why? They're shook up. And I'm going to tell you, it's about these lands right here. There's no discussion about affordable housing in the future. These lands are kapuloa. These are from Honaunau to Koloko. These are the lands that are identified by the ancestors as the repository. At Pu'u is a sacredness focus. It's called, these lands are the great repository of history for mankind. The ancestors say that the earth began, creation of the world began in the Pacific, and we are those very lands. And we are an oral history that goes back to the beginning of things. The makahiki is sacred because it talks about the beginning of life, if you believe this. Makahiki, at the advent of life, that's what they're talking about. And the beginning of baby's birthday is celebrating really the birth of a child, but really the birth of the earth. How's that? This is why that ceremony has lived in the Pacific. But you go to the university, you don't find any of these writings into your makahiki. They don't name it with the understanding that the ancestors can give us. So the only reason, Charles, thank you, and everyone, this is pertinent here. I will not allow the discussion for this parkway. We said no, and now we're finding out why. All Akua told us was to gather the people. We had help from the universities, from the continent, and Hawaii to stop that highway. Now we know why. Thanks so much for listening here.
Thank you, Lamaku. So, where are we? Again, I wanted to suggest that we circle back on this. The whole situation about how do we reset goals. I think David, your point is well taken. What are the wins? At the AC's back, and where have we won as well? But the AC was formed out of the charter of the CDP, and there's some guidelines as to what it's supposed to be, was chartered to do. And there are some things that haven't been met. There was supposed to be, I think, a nonprofit was supposed to be formed as well to help sustain it, and it was created as an advisory committee. So, and I've been on many advisory committees, and that can be a frustrating word, advisory or advisor. But so I think if we want to look at the wins, honestly, we have to decide what are the ones we want to take on and win. I mean, that's because it's not going to come to us. I don't believe, and that's my personal opinion. So, I'm trying to, hopefully we can create that track record, but it's been hard. I think every action committee before me member will tell you the same thing. So staff has a difficult time as well. So it's not, we're not in this by ourselves, but as an advisory committee, we need to take that advice or that role and advocate as well. I think, so, and that may not be popular, I think, in some folks' arena. But David, I think that's why having new people like yourself on is so enriching to the committee, because we don't want to lose sight and get too complacent. So thanks for that. And Lamaku for continually reminding me of what direction and where true north is. Is there any other discussion on this topic, or can we somehow, well, maybe in the next setting the framework we should do this maybe at another meeting. Is that
and I think what we can do is some follow-up via email, and we can send these out separately so that you folks aren't kind of working together, so that we're still in line with sunshine law. And we can send these priorities out to folks and request that folks respond via email, so that we can kind of compile thoughts for the next time that we come together.
Right. Now, for the purpose of making sure that we meet all these, one meeting to talk, one meeting to decide, one meeting to vote, one meeting to organize, and then we're into next year. Can we put it on the agenda? Maybe I'm going to suggest this now, that we prepare ourselves for some kind of a decision making at the next meeting, in the possibility that we, as a result of whatever you send out, we may want to form this committee that helps us provide that sort of focus and direction. So that we can be meeting not in a quarterly fashion, but more the subcommittee can
Sounds good. And then I saw in the chat that Kari has to leave in a bit, and so then that means we're going to lose quorum.
Okay.
So just quickly too, I need to backtrack and apologize to you folks. I thought when we were voting on the letter that it was the majority of folks who are in the meeting, but it is not. Has to be quorum. It's the majority of the total number of participants. So to that end, then the letter does not pass and will not be forwarded on. Just wanted to clarify that. Apologize.
Okay, so with regard to this business item 4, then can we close that and get on to item 5?
Uncle Charlie, I'm sorry. There was one thing that I was hoping we could do quickly, is that Franz sent me an email and asked me if he could join the Kona Open Space Subcommittee. And so because the priority setting exercise is about creating subcommittees, I was hoping that we may entertain a motion to include him, if you folks are willing.
I mean, I'm fine with that. That's great. So somebody want to move? Or do we do it right now?
Can I just clarify? Yeah.
Like right now, I think our open space network subcommittee is me, Janice, and Shirley. And so can we have 4?
Yeah.
We can? Great.
You can have a max of 4.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, I move that we add Franz to our subcommittee.
And I second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, so all in favor indicate by raising your hand, or do we need a voice vote?
I think hands are fine.
Okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6, 2. Yeah. So it's unanimous.
And Chair, one point of order. We are not losing quorum if one leaves, because we have 6 now. So if one leaves, we still have 5.
Thank you, David.
I have a question about that. If I could ask, why did the one vote take a supermajority? And like, if we have a quorum, then can we take votes, or we can't take? I don't understand why that one question couldn't be.
So at the time on the vote for the letter you're asking about, Janice?
Yeah.
So we had 4 members who voted aye, 1 nay, and 1 abstain. So it only gives us 4 ayes. So without the 5th aye, 5 makes quorum, majority of the 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it could never be, okay, gotcha. Thank you for
Yeah.
explaining me.
Sure.
I had another question. If I
Go ahead.
could. Charlie and everyone, I was just wondering if we could, I was really, I liked what, I agreed with what David was saying and brought up, and I know it's a long discussion, and I was wondering if we could agendize that discussion. I know we were talking about that we can do some emailing and stuff like that, but I think, finding out and talking about what we have achieved. So I think we need to have some information to get the public rejuvenated on our project. And I think it would be good if we could go back and see really what we've done and, the achievements, if there are any. And I just think it's important to just kind of reconnoiter, go back to that, because why should people join this effort if they don't see what they're doing?
Mhm.
The fruits of their labor, because it's a lot of labor. Thanks.
Okay, so we're closing item 4, moving to 5. This is Framework for Action Committee run meeting as part of the 2022 road mapping discussion. Some action committees have expressed interest in hosting their own official meetings. This discussion is to clarify the framework for that option, establish the general roles, responsibility, and ensure proper measures are taken to adhere to the state sunshine law. Keiko, you're gonna grab this one?
Yep, I am. So I'm going to share screen real quick. Okay, are you guys seeing that?
Yep.
What I'm seeing. Okay, great. So let's talk about AC hosted meetings. What are they and why would you guys be interested in them? Let me see if I can, hey. So many AC members from around the Moku, from around the island, have been asking for more regular and frequent meetings. And the CDP team would love nothing more than to be able to provide the support needed, but the reality is that we just can't. And so this is a solution that we hope can help solve for some of it. It's kind of a middle ground of sorts. And we talked about it a little bit in the joint AC meeting, and then we're exploring it a little bit more now. And so what are we talking about? These would be meetings that are hosted and organized by AC members, and they would be convened between the already scheduled quarterly meetings. And this would help with continuity. You folks talk about this a lot, in that we need additional touch points with community. We need to have regular meetings to keep the continuity and the workflow going. And it would make it so that you weren't reliant on our capacity in order to host these meetings with community. And so it would be the same structure, in that the chair and the vice chair would preside over the meeting, and you would need to still have quorum, and community could come, council members, in the same way that we support these meetings. We could invite council members, different folks from community. So quorum would still need to be met. Sunshine law would still be needed to follow. And we would still recommend and require a relaxed version of Robert's rules. I think we're pretty minimal on that. We're not real strict about it, but it does help when there's motions on the floor, and to keep order in the meeting. And so these meetings could be scheduled at any time, as long as the chair or vice chair could determine that there would be a quorum. And so I think just some of the different options for this, when the Puna Action Committee was talking this through, I think they landed in a place where, based on the work that they're doing, they're excited about this opportunity, but they're going to keep it on an as needed basis. South Kohala Action Committee, on the other hand, haven't had their meeting yet, but in discussions with the chair, they're leaning more towards just having regularly scheduled meetings. So if they meet on the third Monday of every month, then that's when they're going to schedule the meetings. It kind of depends on the committee themselves and how you folks are most comfortable meeting. And then where, this is the tricky part, because when the governor's proclamation ends on March 25th, it will require a hybrid version of Zoom. So it means that one in-person place would need to be provided for community to attend. The other option is to nix all of that and just go with in-person. That, and then, so who does what and how do I know what my kuleana is? In the same way, so our chair and vice chair would work to prepare the agenda, and we're definitely not just throwing you guys to the wolves. We would help to support you in that. The chair and the vice chair would convene. The committee would be responsible for keeping minutes. So whether that's an action committee member that's selected to do the minutes for the meeting, or whether the chair or vice chair appoints a community member to do the minutes for the meeting. I think we're leaving that up to the committee. And then as we mentioned before, quorum, sunshine law, chair and vice chair would facilitate, or if preferred, they could have another member, they could select another member to facilitate the meeting. And then the committee would be responsible for follow-ups of whatever came out of that meeting. Staff, so on our side, we would still help to make sure that the agendas were in alignment with Sunshine. We would post them on the website. All of that kind of back end work would still remain the same. Same for the minutes. Whoever kept the minutes for the committee meeting would then turn them over and we'd keep them on the website in the same way. We could still help make connections. Say if you were hosting a meeting next month and you wanted to try and get someone to come and share something from an organization or a department, we would still help to make those connections for you folks. And we would still use our mailing list to share the agenda with the community, whomever is signed up. And then on the community side, the ask is that they register and attend. Register if it's going to be a Zoom base, but attend. Oh, I have RCAs over here, but I meant to just say participate in investigatory subcommittees, and then apply for the AC if they're interested in serving in that capacity. And so really this is just meant to be like a conversation starter to get you guys thinking about whether you're interested and willing to take on kind of this collaborative work. And we are sensitive to the fact that many of you are heavily involved with other groups and community work outside of the action committee. And so we're not, we definitely don't want to ask you folks to overburden yourselves, but we're thinking about this as a tool that would be available for you folks if you think it would help work towards implementation. And so definitely this is just high level kind of what we're thinking. And so if you folks are interested, we're going to set up like a much more detailed training session and provide different resources, you know, different things like templates for the agenda, templates for the minutes, Zoom. If the choice was to go to a Zoom hybrid, we would provide the Zoom account. We'd set up all of that stuff, start the meeting, turn over controls to you folks. So there's all these different things that we can work through, and we're hoping that you guys would be willing to work through it with us if it's something that you're interested in doing. So I'll turn it back over to you, Uncle Charlie, if you guys want to have discussion.
Well, yeah, what do folks think? Committee member? That's a thumbs up. Yeah, I think we really want to add some versatility, I think, to how we're able to, or options in how we meet. I think that's been a common complaint. There's a lot more work going to be thrust upon individual members as well as the officers, the chair and the vice chair. So, you know, I think folks want to keep that in mind. I've been always in favor of you know, trying to add to the number of times we can meet, particularly in the phase that we went from a monthly to a once per every other month, and then now to quarterly. So this increases our ability to meet more often, and also to set venues that might be more inviting to the community. So I'm for it. But again, I think remember my Olelo no Eawa. It's only as good as the folks are going to support it. So keep in mind that it does have work. I'd like to proceed, with just understanding more about it, Keiko. And I realize, and thank you, because I see that it also places an added burden on staff as well. So I appreciate that.
We're happy and we're excited to have this opportunity. I think most of you know our team well enough to know that we're really trying to be creative and find ways that we can push through and get to it a little bit more.
Well, I mean, this is really out of the box. I mean, it's not to be cliche, but it's great. So members, what do you think? Committee guys? I mean, I think all we need to know is have a nod of, sure, let's move. And I'm good. David's good.
Yeah, I think it's good to have this option.
Terrific. Yeah, Shirley's not busy enough, that's why. So.
I know.
So okay, so let's have that next agenda or next time around. Okay. Thank you so much, Keiko, for and for staff, for you guys, doing that, making that consideration, because I think that's, as I said, it's out of the box. Or as Guy Fieri would say, out of bounds. Okay, so the next, any discussion further on this item? If not, we're going to close it and thank you. And so the last item is election of action committee officers. So the action committee will nominate and elect a chair, vice chair to serve during the 2022 calendar year. Nomination and election is to be facilitated by planning staff. Do I turn it over? Okay.
Sorry, Uncle Charlie. Janice just put into the chat that she has to leave. And I also am thinking, given the amount of AC members we have in the room here today, it might be better if you guys are amicable to this, moving the election to the next meeting.
I'm fine.
I was going to nominate Charlie anyway, and Shirley.
Well, I was going to nominate you as soon as you leave.
Yeah.
I'm fine for moving it to the next meeting. I really think, other people need to think about taking over some more leadership. And because some of us are wanting to move on to other things.
To David's point about wins, the wins come a lot of times when you change personnel too. I mean, there's just more incentive and stuff, and that's no reflection on past or present people. It's just these are the way things work. So maybe that's why we elect new people every 4 years. So okay, so shall we just motion to defer? Okay, can I get a motion to defer?
I move to defer.
Shirley moved, Dave seconded. Okay, all in favor of deferring agenda item? If no discussion, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. Okay, so we have unanimous. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do we have? 5. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was the last agenda item. So our next meeting is on May 12th. Any final words?
I just wanted to thank everybody for all that you do for our community. It's very much appreciated.
Same here. Same
You
here.
too.
Thank you, Chuck, because I know how busy you are. And safe journey to wherever you're going next. Okay, move to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Staff,
Mahalo.
committee, and participants, thank you so much. And Lamaku for your time and for your input always, as always. And thank you, staff,
Mahalo, mahalo to you, Charles, and all. Thank you.
putting things together. And Cheryl for hanging in there. All right. Okay, I'll see you next time. Ahui ho. Aloha.
Ahui ho. Aloha.
Ahoy ho.
Mahalo, everybody. Mahalo, Lamaku, for being here.
Thank you all.